Hey, it's Tommy B, host of This Is the G podcast. To keep our podcast real and unfiltered, we accept limited sponsorship dollars. Instead, we depend on you, our listeners. Now you can support us and look good buying our swag. Our merchandise store is open for fall 2022. You'll find coffee mugs, shirts, hoodies, and there's more to come. Look for the link in our podcast notes of each show or go to our page at castropolis.net/This Is the G podcast. That's castropolis.net/This Is the G podcast. Be a G. Support the podcast, y'all. News, politics, pop culture, and that piping hot tea from the one and only Tonya B. This is the G podcast.
The next time you drive through Central Georgia, we've got a radio station we think you'll love. We're Magic 100, playing all of the songs you grew up with. You'll find us at 100.1 FM. That's 100.1. On I-75, you can tune us in from the north at Locust Grove and from the south when you get to Perry. 100.1 FM. Classic soul hits. Magic 100.
This is the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It is episode 148 of This Is the G Podcast. Yes. And in talking to Vi, y'all, it just doesn't happen like this. And you know, we go out all across the country, worldwide. But it doesn't happen like this in Atlanta when you got two professional teams winning, or one professional team, one amateur, one college team, but two big teams who win back-to-back, well, 2 weeks in a row. So I got to give it up to the Falcons last week and this week, and also, of course, the Bulldogs are number one. We're going to talk about the Bulldogs, by the way, and how they're winning, man. You know, Vi. So hopefully, Vi, don't look down, don't look away. I know you don't want to have the conversation, but anyway, we're gonna have a conversation about it. But this is the G Podcast, episode 148. Y'all welcome. Thank you so much. You know, last week, I do want to, before we get started, thank Onyi Love, Onyi.love. Last week, she was definitely our expert on cuffing as we entered cuffing season. And we've got a guest coming up in a few minutes who's really looking out for safety. So cuffing last week and this week, you know, looking out for your safety. And you know, so definitely we'll be with our guest in just a few minutes. But we do each week news, politics, pop culture, that piping hot tea from the one and only Tonya B. Tonya B is at a very special event this weekend, and we're going to get to that right before the tea in honor of her father. Want to definitely make sure I mention that. But my brother from another is here. My brother from another mother, the country commentator, the pride of Mary Persons High School, currently in Columbus, but hometown. Where you at, man? Hometown. I want you to say it. Say it for me one time. Bye.
Forsyth, Georgia.
There we go.
The Mary Persons High School Bulldogs.
Oh yeah, they lost this weekend, but we'll forgive them.
Yeah, did we lose?
Yes. Give it up for Vi, y'all, in the building. Yes. And man, Vi, I'm gonna get to you, Vi, because we definitely need to talk about some of the things that occurred in sports over the last week. Almost sports heavy week, with the exception of Ian. For all those folks who are dealing with, the hurricane, especially folks in Florida. We'll get some details with Syracuse Mike in just a few minutes. And hopefully, folks who follow the podcast, friends, family, everybody's safe and secure. And, the key now is I think it's more about finding and recovering and definitely rebuilding. So we'll get to that news with Syracuse Mike. But first, I got to shout out. First of all, is he here? Ronnie, you there, man? We didn't run you away. Okay.
Yeah.
Because some guests, they hear us talking like, oh, no, oh, hell no. We got. but appreciate you, man. Thank you. First of all. And so he's one of the few guests who I will allow to come on by phone because his information is just so critical. I said, man, I don't care. You know, it's kind of like just get there. That song, you got 3 ways. Just tell me how you're going to come in here, man. And we're officially in October, Ronnie. It's fall. People are talking about basically COVID restrictions being pulled back. You got football, basketball, concerts, the movies. People are just engaging again. So with all that, people are out and about. And I invited Ronnie on. Ronnie Wyatt is a law enforcement professional, almost 40 years in the business of law enforcement, currently working in South Metro Atlanta, the metro area. He's gone from being first on the scene to now more of a strategic managerial situation in law enforcement. And he's also one of my turntable brothers from the $1 Million Record Pool back in the day when he was young. So he's going to address something at the end, something that, my folks from the pool are trying to put together on the digital side. So with that being said, I got to give it up. Y'all give it up for Roddy Wyatt.
How you doing?
Man, thank you so much for being on, Ronnie. And you know what, man, because of your importance and this is your inaugural visit on the show, you get the air horn. You get the air horn too, bro. And it's Sunday too, and the Falcons won today. So we all in a good mood here, man. But let me ask you, Ronnie, you and I, it's been years since we spoke, but we had a really good conversation in setting up this interview, man. And you and I talked about, law enforcement. And I want you to share a story, man, with me, because you talked about, as a law enforcement officer or professional, how your family responded to you after a lot of these high profile situations. Especially you pointed to your 82-year-old father, who grew up, in an era, as you know, with the police being, not looked upon positively. So give me a little bit of, give our audience a little bit of that insight, if you would.
Well, first we have to clear up one thing. We live in two Americas. And I'm using the number 2 because there are so many different nuances, meaning that we have so many different cultures. But basically, during my father's time from the 40s, he was born in the 40s, that, was Black America, white America. So when we say that the police were not viewed positively, they were by white America. So by Black America, we know that the mistreatment and abuse was legal at that time. And so that's what he grew up with. It wasn't until 1968 in Georgia that a Black police officer could arrest a white person.
Wow.
So much has changed during his lifetime. So it's difficult, as they would say, to teach an old dog new tricks. It's difficult to change his mindset. Not to say that we're still not in two Americas, but the one thing that has changed, even though the system sometimes doesn't prove it or stand by its word, that treatment is no longer legal. And so because all too often we see it played out on television that a police officer gets away with committing what in our hearts and minds is a crime, that brings about a level of doubt. And for him, that's an aha moment. So anytime there's activity, questionable activity between a police officer and especially a person of color, the seniors in my family who have had that experience are less trusting of the police. And even though I happen to be part of the family, so I often get that, oh, you're a police officer, so you're on their side. So clearly there's a their side versus our side situation. And so, and that's one of the difficulties that I have when dealing with my family, my father, and they are convicted in their experiences. So it's difficult to change that in light of our media today.
Yeah. You and I had a conversation even about the Rayshard Brooks shooting. Right. That situation, get into that a little bit, in terms of, and of course, if you don't know, that shooting occurred in a few years ago near the downtown area where he was shot after getting a taser, and he was shot fleeing with the taser. So give us, basically your insight into that shooting, what you saw and what you think as an officer.
So it's stressful because there's a belief that because you're a police officer, you don't see things like that and it doesn't affect you. So even though we are trained to take a life, I can't think of anyone that I know in law enforcement who has at least admittedly indicated that they're excited about or look forward to the opportunity of doing so. I almost had an accident trying to avoid running over a squirrel. But yet I also understand that if in the line of duty I shoot someone, some folks in the public is going to see me as a person who doesn't care about life. So in dealing with that, that was one of those instances where it was even more so difficult talking to my family about the Rashad Brooks, because, of course, that whole entire situation bothered me. There were things that I believe that the police could have done better. And, of course, as you were talking about football a few minutes ago. I'm sure during that game, if you were watching it, you were sitting in your chair like you were playing Nintendo or Xbox.
Oh, yeah. We're the armchair. We're the armchair quarterbacks. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So all of us, we go back, even in law enforcement, we go back and review video over and over and over and over again to see what could have gone better. And, my only concern was that a life was taken. That was the first concern, because there is nothing greater than, no greater gift given to us in our life. So when you get there, then your next step is, was a law violated or was the law followed? And the unfortunate truth was that a taser can cause great bodily harm or death. And of course, we were quick to get people on television saying, oh, a taser is a less lethal weapon. Less lethal means it's not intended or it might not cause death. Now, I'm not sure about any of y'all who go to the casino, but are you going to put $1 million down on a mic? And so that being, it might not cause me death is a reason for me not to use deadly force to prevent that might from happening. Well, unfortunately, we are taught that the only time we can use deadly force is if we're in danger of great bodily harm or death. Well, I'm a taser instructor, and the package that it comes in tells you that this device, if used by someone not trained or in a manner contrary to our instructions, may cause great bodily harm or death. Okay. So the public not knowing what's being trained, they're quick to say, oh, you should train the officers this or you should train the officers that. And so when I talk to people in the public, it's a tough message to get to them that our protest is necessary. We should always protest when a person is killed by the government, the police. We should always want to be in the front center to find out what happened, what could have happened, so that we can avoid it from happening again. But we forget the Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings that existed who protested through intelligence. And what I mean by intelligence, I'm not using that as an insult against anyone, but intelligence versus ignorance. Intelligence is having information. Ignorance is not having the information.
Yeah, having the information to ask the right questions and probe. Yeah, right. I got you. Well, let me ask you about, because a lot of that comes into play when we talk about community policing. We're hearing that a lot. Even with the new administration, and in our area, I'm on the South Side. Shaquille O'Neal is a community liaison and a communications director for the county. So you can imagine what having somebody like that does for community engagement, but not everybody has a Shaquille O'Neal, on their department. So from a standpoint, and keep all this that we've been talking about, these situations where people aren't prepared or just approaching the problems without the information, how do you feel community policing, might make things a little bit better when it comes down to, just engaging with the public, man?
Well, when you have someone like a Shaquille O'Neal is bigger than a police department.
Yeah.
And his philanthropy is bigger than a police department. His charity is bigger than police department. So having him there is definitely positive, but that's Shaquille O'Neal. So whereas I think he is doing great things. I think Henry County is smart for having him and embracing him in their community. And all law enforcement agencies attempt to do the same thing, but I think a lot of things are a distraction. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that he is a distraction. It takes our minds off of the problem. Painkillers take your mind off of the problem. And so when you're taking your mind off of the problem, and the problem being the behavior of the police that is unwanted, then we are shocked back to reality when something else happens. So what I would like to see in more communities is the same way you and I are sitting down having a conversation. Mm-hmm. It is that conversation between the police and the community before something happens. We always see it after the fact.
Yeah, so true.
And so that's what community policing is about, is us sitting down having conversation, us sitting down breaking bread, us sitting down with the community in a situation that's not enforcement.
Yeah.
And that also reduces crime also in the same light. But unfortunately, a lot of that is due to our unwillingness to pay for police. And I say that because we're all agencies now are shorthanded. So they're patrolling by drive-by as opposed to patrolling by getting out of the car, walking through the neighborhoods, talking to people.
And you mean that in terms of, payment, in terms of pay? From city to city or county to county?
Well, I mean, so yes, there's a major competition for police. You would swear it was the NFL draft now. Mm-hmm. So cities realize that as the standards for policing goes up, fewer people are qualified. So now there's a competition for those folks who are qualified to be the police.
Okay.
And so, yeah, salaries and benefits are moving and driving the workforce. So smaller agencies are struggling, while even larger agencies are struggling. But when you're a city of Atlanta, you've got over 2,000 police officers. So you have the fluidity to offset some of that. Yeah. But what the point that I'm getting at is that we would much rather our tax dollars go into some type of social service versus law enforcement.
Yeah.
And the difficulty you have is that some of our politicians have to lean towards where they're getting their votes from. So you have jurisdictions where sometimes the police are neglected. And in particular, we have a local agency that just gave their officers a 20% raise. Well, that sounds wonderful, but who gives out 20% raises?
Nobody.
Right. And when you give it, I mean, not many. Catching a football.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a big increase. It's a big increase.
Right. If you're catching a football, then I understand. So when that happens and you give out a 20% raise and they are still below their neighbor next door, that's an indication that the purse holders prioritize funding to other things. And so I'm not saying that they mishandled or whatever, but other things were more important to them than the law enforcement aspect. When you see police agencies driving Crown Vics, that's a Ford Crown Vic, and that vehicle hadn't been manufactured in 11 years? there's an indication of, okay, well, what's our importance in this city or in this county?
How they prioritize the budget. Yeah.
Right. And so of course that goes into the defund the police, where you have a lot of agencies who are already saying, well, God, how much more defunding can we get? And so now police officers are looking at, okay, this agency is going to give me a brand new car, and then I get it assigned just to me. I can take it home, bring it back. They're going to give me a pension as opposed to the 401 type of pension. And so those perks are now driving our younger officers and senior officers, if they're not already in some type of advisory role or command role, are saying, hey, look, I can go and sit at home instead of this. So that is where we are right now, where that is concerned. But that takes us away from being able to take time out and stop and walk and meet the people on the beat.
Got you. I got you. Well, let me ask you, and shout out to one of our big supporters, Karen Renee, who's a friend of the show. She sent me something, and she had no idea you were going to be on this week. But there is a situation that's happening in a county that happens to be south where, they're having some major internal problems. I'm not going to mention the city. If you watch the Atlanta news, you know what's going on. And, given the fact that this department is having these major internal problems that are being aired out to the public, and in just about a minute, because I do want you to get to the tips. I just want some insight. When people are already distrustful of the service, and then they hear about these kind of things, man, how can these departments move forward and establish trust when they see mess that should be on ABC or Hulu, that's happening in these departments? I mean, how can they move forward beyond that?
And it's difficult because we don't offer a new song, or we don't offer 260 yards rushing in a game. So, and I say that because we can overlook the humanalities of our singers, and I'll just say the name R. Kelly and won't go into detail.
Yeah,
but we can overlook that for years.
Some of us can,
right?
Not everybody,
right?
But go ahead.
But we know how long that was going on. Yeah. Both of us haven't been around, so. But when you're the police, whereas with an entertainer, that's an option. That's a given. But with the police, it's an expectation. And so when the police make a mistake, no matter how small, no matter how big, you have people looking at you like, you're supposed to be the law, and yet you're breaking it. So it's a tough situation, but that brings in the community policing area. We are excited. I shouldn't say excited. When it's happening to another agency, it's kind of ironic, because on one hand, oh man, the heat's off of us today. But in actuality, even though they're saying John Doe City, the city, whatever that city is, it's still on us, because all people see is the uniform.
Yeah, absolutely. They see they may even walk by and just say, "Oh, another police situation again. Here we go."
Right. Yeah. And so now that news media is about opinion, and they're based more so on how many viewers we can get, because the more viewers, the more advertisement. The story of a police officer doing well is rarely seen on television.
Yeah. Okay.
But out of 880,000 police officers in the United States, somebody has to be doing well somewhere.
Okay.
And so when you have that, it becomes the police responsibility to get out to the community and make sure the community see you doing well. It becomes the police, and I hate to give credit to, under the Trump administration, an executive order was assigned that requires, in order for local law enforcement to get funding, that they must have included in their policies a expectation of intervention, meaning you must intervene when your colleague or police officer is doing something wrong.
Okay.
You have a requirement to. There should never have been that. That's always been the law. There just should have been an enforcement on the police part to ensure that their officers were doing it.
Yeah.
And so we have to be more public about these arrests. We shouldn't have to have a situation where a district attorney attempts to throw a chief of police under the bus, only for that chief of police to say, hey, you have 3 or 4 cases sitting on your desk of officers that we've arrested.
Wow. So
when that happened, and I'll give a shout out to the former chief of Atlanta, Erica Shields, who did that to a previous district attorney. When you have that, and the public didn't know, not only did the public not know, I'm a police officer, I didn't know that she had arrested that many people, that many of her own officers, and put them there. So we've got to do a better job of making sure the public know that we are policing our own, because if we don't, they're going to continue to believe that we're covering up things.
Yeah.
But for that city that you were mentioning, they've just got to do a better job of getting out with the public, because it happens to everybody. Yeah. It's just their turn in the barrel, so to speak.
Gotcha. Okay. So again, I mentioned fall. I mentioned, everything that's happening. A lot of COVID restrictions are being lifted. We're seeing, which probably a few years ago would have been, I don't want to say the norm, but now it's kind of exacerbated because of the fact that we're coming out of COVID, and a lot of us have been, in either in quarantine or restricted. But give us some tips, Ronnie, if you would, just a few tips on the season, because already have, of course, Halloween's coming up at the end of this month. You've got fall festivals, you've got, football, basketball, all this stuff's happening at once, not only in the larger metros, but even some of the smaller cities. You're seeing, some crimes that are just, pretty incredible. Then you're heading into the holiday season, which would be, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So give us some tips on I say one guy just told me, hey, just keep your head on a swivel. But give me some tips. Give us some tips, man, for my audience. And then, we'll move on. But we really want to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah. And that keeping your head on a swivel is important, but it goes even deeper than that. And I'm going to speak directly to the Black community, because unfortunately in the Black community, we tend not to even know who our neighbors are. So we see things happening in our community. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a roll call and I've heard that a U-Haul truck was backed up in someone's driveway and it sat there all day long. Nobody said a word.
Wow. And
when that family came home, that U-Haul truck was gone, and so was everything in their home, and people saw it. So, I know that we are hesitant to call the police because of the bad things that happen, but we do need to be more proactive and start calling. In other neighborhoods and other communities, they call the police because when they got home, a flower pot was knocked over on their front porch. And they have a right to call the police for that. So we need to start calling the police, because it makes no sense that the same neighborhood in a different community, their house values are higher than the house values over here, and the crime rate is lower over here than it is over here. So a lot of that is from not talking. Additionally, we have an influx of people from other communities, from the suburbs who moved in. And I've always heard these stories, and, I didn't even have to lock my door. Okay, well, you're in the metro area, you have to lock your door. So it's not leaving things on your seat in your car. Knowing exactly where you're going, put the cell phone down. Look ahead of you. Just like when you're driving, you don't look just right in front. You look down the road to see what hazards are coming up. So usually if someone's going to assault you, they're in plain view. You see them standing there. So if you don't have a plan A and a plan B, and that's usually because you weren't paying attention, then you become victimized. So to avoid being that victim, you have to also start using common sense. We have an influx of ladies who are coming up missing because they're leaving somewhere late at night by themselves.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that going on.
I'm a guy who carries a gun, and I opt not to do a lot of things at night by myself. I don't go to the ATM at night by myself. So there are things like that are common to us. We just believe it won't happen to us. I don't go into a store and leave my car running. I don't pump gas and leave my car running. In fact, I put the keys in my pocket and pump gas. So they're the simple things that we already know, that, again, we just don't believe is going to happen to us. So a lot of these victims that we're running across will say, I didn't think this would happen to me. And so I think that we could offset a lot of the personal safety issues if we just be mindful and more importantly, put that cell phone down.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good advice. Excellent advice. Ronnie, man, I do want to thank you for taking the time. First of all, it's a Sunday. You're an active officer, in the South Atlanta metro area. So, when I called you, man, your phone, how many times you had to break away? Hey, I'll be right back. Hey, so it was like constant. And I could imagine even on the weekend how things are. But in addition to your role as an officer, man, you're also involved with the relaunch of $1 Million Record Pool, J.R. Dino, who J.R. Dino was at one point pretty involved with the law enforcement in the area.
Yeah, he was our Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. What you mentioned the name Richard Langford, or
yes,
yep, and Sheriff Langford.
And let me say this for the community: we've heard of the Victor Hills and the other black sheriffs who were first or whatever, but I had the privilege of working for the first elected African American. And that was Richard Langford.
Yes.
He was the first African American to be elected in the history of the state of Georgia, and very few folks don't know that about him.
Wow.
He is still a active minister, and he lives in College Park. I also had the privilege of working for Sheriff Jacqueline H. Barrett, who was the first African American female
awesome lady
elected in the history of the United States. So we have history with our black sheriffs here in Georgia. It's not just about who has the toughest jail, but we. And Dino was brought into the fold by Sheriff Langford, and of course, Dino ran the $1 Million Record Pool, which back in the day, for the young folks, we had was called LPs or vinyl.
vinyl.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we begrudgingly moved to CDs. And we fought.
Some of us never did.
Yeah.
But go ahead. CDs. But go ahead, man.
Oh, stop playing. You still use the 8. So, and of course now everything is digital.
Yeah.
I still do DJing, but so what we're doing, we're getting together a lot of the old $1 Million Record Pool DJs, and we're working on relaunching with Dino's brothers' approval and involvement and leadership, the $1 Million Record Pool online.
Awesome, man. That's awesome.
So,
good stuff.
We're in the building phase, but it is coming. And so wish us well. We don't have a website yet, but that's coming soon, and I'll make sure I get you the information for how people will be able to log in and get more information. And of course, if there are any $1 Million Record Pool DJs out there from the past, give me a call. I'm Ron Wyatt. My number is 678-456-2139. Again, that's 678-456-2139. We're trying to find as many of you out there hiding as we can.
They will come out now. They will come out.
So,
Ron, thank you so much, man. I gotta give it up, man, and I'm gonna ask you your DJ name off the air.
okay, all right. But hey, one more thing.
Go ahead.
The city of South Fulton is having trunk or treat at Welcome All Park. I don't recall the date, but you can look on the police website. The city of East Point is doing it. Clayton County.
Henry's doing it too now. Don't forget.
And Henry County. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it because I actually had the dates for everybody written down.
Oh yeah.
College Parks is October 28th from 6 p.m. to 9 at the Godby Road Recreation Center or the Tracy Wyatt Recreation Center. And they're also going to have a haunted house for theirs. And when College Park does it, you have the Fulton County Sheriff, sometimes Clayton County Sheriff, the Fulton County Marshal, City of South Fulton Police, MARTA. So we team together with a lot of different agencies to create a safe environment for the kids to come out.
Good stuff, man. Thank you so much again. Got to give you your due for taking the time to come on today, man. And of course, can't leave without, because you're a new guest, you get the air horn as well, man. Ronnie Wyatt, thank you so much. Continue the good work you do, man, and definitely make sure you keep communicating with the public. And hopefully, can we get you back every now and then? Just kind of give us some updates.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you, man. Take care. And we'll reach out to you.
And one shout out to Regia Shabazz.
Yes. Let me get Regia. Yes. Regia is the reason. Thank you so much, Regia. But go ahead, Ronnie. All
right. And y'all have a blessed evening and go Falcons.
Yes. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Take care. Have a good Sunday. Have a good day.
You too. Love.
See, he shouted out your Falcons too.
I'm serious. A fellow Falcon fan.
Yes, it's hard to find. But again, thank you, Ronnie Wyatt, for coming on. Y'all, let's do this. Tonya B is, again, off this week. She's in St. Louis, and I'll give you the reason why in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and do news, abbreviated news with Syracuse Mike. It's not going to be a very long show today. So this news with Syracuse Mike definitely includes the situation with Ian. So we'll get into it right now. Here we go.
News team!
Time for the Week in News with Syracuse Mike.
A new Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll shows Governor Brian Kemp leading challenger Stacey Abrams 50 to 42%. In the Senate race, Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker remain within the margin of error, with Walker ahead 46-44. The number one issue in the state, the economy. In Washington Wednesday, President Biden touted his administration's efforts to end hunger in the U.S. by 2030. It's the first major initiative of its kind in 50 years. The president tried to thank other elected officials for their help.
Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
No, she wasn't there because, sadly, Congresswoman Jackie Walorski died in a car crash last month. The president's latest gaffe instantly gave his critics more ammunition for their arguments about his fitness to serve. Mr. Biden turns 80 next month. Grammy winner Coolio has died. Coolio, whose real name is Artist Ivy Jr., was found unresponsive Wednesday afternoon while visiting a friend's house. He won a Grammy for Best Rap Solo Performance in 1996 for Gangsta's Paradise from the movie soundtrack for Dangerous Minds, a song that was arguably more popular than the movie. Coolio was 59. In a lengthy testimony Thursday, Jenny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, told the January 6th panel that she still believes false claims that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump. That's according to committee chairman Benny Thompson. CBS News and the Washington Post have published text messages from Thomas to top Trump allies, in which she urged them to investigate the phony claims of election fraud. She also said her husband was unaware of text messages to Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff. Hurricane Ian slammed into South Carolina, but it's not as powerful as it was earlier in the week. It will still do serious damage. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster had this warning before it hit.
Call your family, call your loved ones, tell them where you're going to be. Let them know that so they won't be worrying about you.
President Biden declared a state of emergency in South Carolina and ordered federal assistance for the state. Ian was much more powerful when it hit Florida earlier in the week, leaving 9 confirmed dead. There are other reports of up to 15 people killed as a result of the storm. Right now, the focus remains on rescuing people, according to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
First responders are doing targeted searches, just going home by home, checking to see if people are okay, and then responding to specific reports if they're missing loved ones.
Yeah, and by the way, as we tape today, they're looking at the cost of this hurricane being somewhere between 28 and 100 billion. So it's probably going to be one of the more, even beyond Andrew that happened, I think back in the 90s. It's going to be probably one of the most expensive in Florida, costliest. And they're thinking about or looking at, the insurers are facing probably 68 million or more.
Yeah. I read what some of the insurers are not going to be able to cover the damage.
Yeah. It's so extensive. So the death toll right now has surpassed, as we tape, 60. And that's probably going to climb over the next few days because, they're going home to home. So you know how that happens, especially in some of the probably more remote and smaller areas. So definitely keep the folks in your prayers. If you have friends and family, we hope for the best who are still involved and caught up in that, especially with the fact that it came out and then went back up through South Carolina. So, definitely keep those folks in your prayers. The other thing is, if y'all remember, just kind of put it in perspective, Katrina, 1800 in Katrina, totally different situation because it went on because of the levees. And the cost of Katrina was over 125 billion. So just to kind of put everything in perspective. A couple of things. Kemp and Abrams, with Kemp being up by 8, that situation is concerning because it's outside of the margin of error. The other thing, the Walker and Warnock is by 2, so it's within the margin of error. But my concern by, again, I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, man, I just don't know, especially them reaching blacks in the area via phone, these surveys. I'm just asking, I'm wondering if these companies are able to reach a lot of folks, because when the phone rings, I ain't answering.
Me neither.
I mean, and you know what? Here's the thing. I check my messages on a digital line that I have that's connected to my intranet, and we really just use the intranet, and I can hear the messages from a lot of the people who are calling for surveys. So, if you see a number and you've been told, if you see a number you don't recognize, don't answer it. I'm not telling people to answer it because you never know who's calling, but I think that's going to have a lot to do with these polls, and we've seen over the last couple of years, especially with the last election, the polls can be inaccurate. So who knows what's really going on with the Kemp-Abrams situation. But what it does say is you got to get out and vote. And if you're not registered, you got a deadline coming up real soon. You got to register for. But connect and let's get that taken care of, because, we're definitely, that's November, month away. OK, the Biden situation with him pointing out a congressperson who had died a few weeks ago, or calling for. The dude is 80. You know what I'm saying? The dude, I mean, damn, I forget.
I said it was time. He lived a good life.
No, I'm not saying he needs to. I mean, he needs to resign or anything like that. What I am saying is,
I didn't say that. I just said you said
he's 80.
It shouldn't be such a big shocker. He lived a good life.
Damn, I'm over 50, and sometimes I look down and say, damn, what is that? Oh, I went and got it. Oh, that's tea. I went and got it. So we all slip. I mean, it was kind of, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but he's going to be 80 in a couple of weeks. Think about that. That's all I got to say. You put that wherever you want to put that. The Coolio, we'll get into a little bit more detail into that in the tea. Jenny Thomas, wife of Clarence Thomas. This lady is QAnon. She is, she out there. And, I wouldn't be surprised if she's hardcore insurrectionist. And really the only reason she's going to get away with a lot of this is her husband's on the bench.
Look, she said she still believed the election was stolen.
Yes.
That's enough to not listen to her anymore. To give her the side look. What?
That's what I'm saying. And your husband's on the bench? And then she had the nerve to even say, oh, well, we don't talk about it. Come on. Come on.
Really?
No.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe it. I don't believe anything she says, and they just need to move on because she's going to keep lying. Let's go ahead. One thing I do want to do, because Tonya B is not here with the tea, and I'll go ahead and knock out the tea, but I do want to let people know why Tonya B is not on today. Her dad was inducted. His name's James Early Byrd. You can Google it. He was on WILD in Boston, pioneer radio veteran from 1960 to 1970. Spent over 60 years in the industry, launched many careers, and he was just instrumental in Boston history. As a matter of fact, if you remember when Dr. King was assassinated, a lot of cities went up in flames, and he was part of what kept Boston calm. So definitely shout out to Tonya B and her family, the Byrd family. James Early Byrd was inducted, posthumously, National Black Radio Hall of Fame. Congrats and to his family. Also inducted into the National Black Radio Hall of Fame. We just got finished talking about J.R. Dino and the record pool. J.R. Dino of Atlanta was also inducted. So Bernard, shout out to you and your fam. That was, Dino's brother. And we just definitely appreciate all the work he did. You can hear, how his work impacted the city, College Park, Fulton County, city of Atlanta. So, shout out to all the folks who were inducted just nationally. I mean, this is a show that reaches a lot of different cities, and a lot of folks you might know were at the Black National Radio Hall of Fame being inducted. So shout out. And thank you again. Well, Tonya B will be back next week, but what a great week for her and her family. Definitely. Congratulations, Tonya B. Okay. All right, y'all. You ready? Here we go. Let's try. Tonya B ain't here, so you gonna help? You're supposed to say yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go.
Now then, children, it's time for tea.
It's tea time, y'all. Sipping the tea with Tonya B.
And I gotta say happy big birthday to number 12 to my Gen Z in the building. Yes, happy 12. And let's get on with the tea, y'all. Rapper Coolio, of course, died at 59 years old this week. He was a Grammy winner, won for Gangsta's Paradise from the movie Dangerous Minds, if y'all remember that, with Michelle Pfeiffer. And he's also known, if y'all remember, for Slide, Slide, Slippity Slide, the Fantastic Voyage song, which of course was a sample of Lakeside's Fantastic Voyage. But and by the way, do you know what song Gangsta's Paradise was sampling? Do you know?
I know.
Okay. If you remember Songs in the Key of Life, there was a song by Stevie Wonder called Pastime Paradise. Mm-hmm. So on Songs in the Key of Life, if you go on the album, which is my favorite album of all time, one of my favorites, if not the favorite, Pastime Paradise, you will listen to and you'll hear that, basically where Coolio got the sample from. But one of my fondest memories of Coolio, I was working in Dallas and Russ Parr was working. If you know Russ Parr, Bobby Jimmy, Critters, Roaches, all that. He was doing mornings for the station, and Coolio stopped by. Of course, he had already had the Fantastic Voyage hit, and of course the big Grammy-winning hit. So he came in, and I had no idea that he actually grew up in L.A. He and Russ. He didn't work with Russ, but he knew Russ from listening to Russ and for my L.A. folks, the station K-Day. Legendary hip hop station. So rest in peace, Coolio. Great guy, nice guy. Really a very nice guy. He didn't really like when Al Yankovic, Weird Al Yankovic, did that parody of his song at first. But I think, but they worked it out. He gave him a big hug and they moved on from there. All right.
That's good.
The other thing is, I guess we can say congrats to Nick Cannon. The Masked Singer host has now had baby number 10, just 2 weeks after baby number 9. The baby's name is Rise Messiah Cannon and was born Friday as of the taping of this podcast. And Nick called the birth another blessing. And the world takeover of Nick Cannon and his baby mamas continue. It's a world takeover, y'all. That's all I got to say about that. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave the rest for Tonya B when she gets back. That's all I'll say. Now let's go from spreading the bag to getting the bag. Our favorite actress, Keke Palmer, announced that she's launching a new digital network. It's called Key TV Network. You can follow, I think the network on Twitter is at Key TV Network, all one word. Keke's launching the network utilizing all the content, all her knowledge over the last 20 years. But it's going to include her acting, singing, writing, directing, and she's also working to collaborate with people. But Vi, that's a great thing to do. She just came off a big movie, and instead of waiting for people to give you a show, you take the show to the people, do her own thing. So she's doing her own thing. Absolutely. She's doing the digital, doing her own thing. So kudos and shout out to Keke. I love Keke. I look forward to it. You remember when she played the quarterback?
Yeah, I do.
In that movie. I mean, she's done some great movies, but Akilah and the Bee will always be my favorite.
That's what I remember for Akilah the Bee.
Akilah and the Bee. According to TMZ, now you and I talked about this. I want your insight, Vi, because you've been overseas. According to TMZ, Antonio Brown exposed himself to a woman of all places, in Dubai. So it was apparently caught on video. The network Post got their hands on the footage, which was shot actually back in May. Brown was at the Armani Hotel, got handsy with the swimmer in the pool, and according to the video, Brown shoved his bare ass in the swimmer's face not once, but twice in Dubai. What you think gonna happen? Dude, I mean, don't you understand that they cut stuff off
in Dubai?
In Saudi Arabia.
Their women are not allowed to show their face in Dubai.
So he's doing this in public. Dubai, they don't joke. It's going to be interesting to see how this works out.
They have their own set of rules, their own set of law, and they're not scared of America.
Nope. So we're going to follow this and see what happens. But this dude, he ain't coming back to football. I don't see that happen. Okay.
He crazy. Yeah. Even though he say he ain't, but something wrong.
Yeah, mental illness is real.
If he ain't crazy, he need, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
If he ain't crazy, then why are you doing all this?
Yeah. It's interesting, man. We'll see how it works out. Also, after 7 years as host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah is calling it quits. Noah revealed his plans to his audience last Thursday at the taping in New York. And it's really not clear yet. He may have announced it recently within the last day or so when the actual exit's going to take place. But shout out to my folks, our friends in South Africa. Of course, Noah's from South Africa. And I wish him the best, Vi, because, we had a conversation about him not being the best choice for the Emmys. For the Grammys. And but I think, without a doubt, he can continue to do stand-up. He should continue to do his stand-up. And definitely, I see him potentially going into movies. But as far as The Daily Show, 7 years, I'm surprised it lasted that long because, all these shows, you're seeing a lot of these late night shows are going away. James Corden has made an announcement that he's not coming back. You've got a list of folks. So I'm not surprised that he's made a decision not to come back. Okay. The other thing, and this is in crazy family news, and I just can't believe 3 people, a mom, a dad, and a son have been arrested and charged with the murder of rapper PNB Rock. So 40-year-old Freddie Lee Trone was taken into custody in Vegas. The fugitive suspect and his 17-year-old son, who's considered a minor, was charged Thursday in the shooting at an LA restaurant. According to court documents, Trone's son, who was considered a minor, is the one who pulled the trigger and robbed PNB inside Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. If you know that, if you're in LA, you know about Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on September 12th. Freddie Trone was the getaway driver, and Trone's wife also stands accused of being an accessory after the fact. So can you imagine the mom, the dad, and the son all being convicted and going to prison? So
that kid never had a chance.
No, he never had a chance. So I'm sure, of course, if he did that, there's video footage of it, and the dad being the getaway driver and the mom accessory after the fact. So
did they say why they did?
It was a robbery.
So they just picked to rob him. No reason. They just rob people because they can.
Well, keep in mind that a lot of folks are having conversations as rappers, even going on a lot of podcasts and shows saying, people know that rappers get robbed because they wear jewelry and, the thing. And I'm not going to get on here and victim blame, about, whether or not his girlfriend should have posted or not. That has nothing to do with the fact that, the guy had no reason to rob him. But, this is one of the reasons I had Ronnie on, because you never know who's planning what. So you need to be aware and you need to make sure that you take precautions. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's right. Cause that's why when I go my trips and stuff and I post it, I don't post it till I'm back.
Yeah, there you go. Post it when you back in the crib.
When I'm back in the crib.
All right, man, just a few quickies. Watching Lizzo this week play President James Madison's crystal flute in Washington and twerking at the same time was my joy of the week, especially watching people get mad at her for doing it.
Right. But they gave her the flute. What they thought she was going to do with it?
That's what I'm saying. It was on loan. So what the hell?
So somebody gave her that flute. It's not like she stole the flute.
That's what I'm saying. They say, here, Lizzo, play the flute. So,
and Lizzo does what Lizzo do.
Yes. You put it best. Enough said. No said, bro. Evie Magazine is claiming that the Woman King manufactured their Rotten Tomato scores. And all I have to do, I'm not even going to go into this story. I wrestled with the fact whether or not I wanted to mention it anyway, but I got to just say 3 words. Shut up, haters.
Right.
That's all I got. Because people do this. Hollywood does this all the time.
But wouldn't Rotten Tomatoes say they manufactured if they didn't agree with it?
Well, my point is the movie was #1 at the box office. They didn't manufacture that. The people went to see it.
Who is Edie Magazine?
I don't know, man. I'm gonna leave it at that. But anyway, they posted this, and Edie Magazine is claiming that But I'll leave it at that. Too much already said about it. And I got to shout out friend of the show, my folks in Macon, Georgia, Newton Collier of the Sam and Dave horns. I'm gonna give him. Let me see if I can give him. I gotta give him the air horn. Let me see. Here we go. Give Newton the air horn, friend of the show. He's being honored in Macon, Georgia in the month of October for all his great things he does in the community. He's on a lot of boards, but not only that, his musical career, which includes playing the horn for Sam and Dave. Newton's a great guy, friend of the show, checks us out and shares the show every week. So thank you so much, Newton, for sending me the information, man. I know I'll be getting some more from you, Newton. So keep doing your thing, bro. Appreciate you, sir. Appreciate you so much. All right. Hey, real quick, I can't leave without doing the expected for my good friends. So because I had to do the tea, y'all, I got to do double duty, Vi. So here we go.
What you watching this week, Tommy B?
Got to do double duty, man. Got to give you the main. I'm gonna give you the main. All right, so here's the deal. Fall season is here. So Atlanta was crazy. Atlanta reminded me this week of my family. This week's episode was light skinned, and this is basically every black family has somebody feuding. 2 sisters, 2 brothers. Every black family got a feud going on. So I think every black family, which black family doesn't have a Jeannie who believes everybody hates her because she's light-skinned. She said skinned. It's skinned. Y'all know that. What older black man in a family hasn't felt a little disrespected when they go into the mall by the younger culture, So they wait when all the young folks aren't in the mall to go in the mall. And Cat Williams in this episode said it best. You can't kidnap your own father because kidnapping has the word kid in it. so it was funny. I mean, Atlanta is what Atlanta is.
I've been hearing that all weekend. I mean, why I keep hearing that all weekend that you can't kidnap your own father?
Well, I don't want to give it away because it's part of the plot. So for folks who haven't seen it, I'm gonna wait and talk about it next week. But
you need to email me if I can go see it. Then,
Atlanta's on. It's on Fox. It's on FX. It's on Hulu. You can find it. Go to.
It's
FX.
On Atlanta.
It's on Hulu, man. On Hulu.
What is it?
FX on Hulu.
Is it a show or something?
It's a half hour. Yes. All right. Don't let me explain Atlanta to you.
What's the name?
Off the air.
What's the name of the show?
Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta.
Where you been?
The show Atlanta. Gotcha.
Yes,
gotcha.
the show Atlanta.
Gotcha.
Okay,
gotcha.
Donald Glover. There we go. All right.
Gotcha. Now.
Abbott Elementary is good this week. As Abbott shows their jealousy for the charter school. It's my favorite time of the year. Y'all know it's my favorite time of the year. Hulu delivers again. Scary content is at Hulu-WEEN. And you know me, I watch crazy stuff. So I had to jump back into Hulu-WEEN and watch the ABCs of Death.
So that's what Netflix get the idea from then. They're doing the same thing.
Oh, they're doing like Hulu-WEEN or something. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, they got a bunch of either Netflix or Prime. One of them, they got a bunch of scary movies you can watch. Yeah, so it's October, so Halloween started back in September, just like Christmas trees are up right now. So Halloween, it's Halloween month. But let me tell y'all, I mean, I watched the ABCs of Death 1, but don't watch that. Watch number 2. Now, number 2, I don't know where it is right now because it's not on Hulu-WEEN. But anybody, if you have any thoughts on that, if you've seen both of them, 1 is trash. 2 is the best to watch. Watch number 2, ABC's Death 2. That's the one. Okay. Finally, shout out to The Root, theroot.com, for their article on best streaming services for the Black dollar. So for your money, especially in October, they kind of give the streaming services that offer the best in terms of delivery of Black content for your money. And it looks like Netflix is coming up on top along with HBO Max. But I got to look at cutting some of these services before the end of the year. So I'll be giving you some more information coming soon. We love your feedback. Weigh in, go to the People Poll at castropolis.net, hit the People Poll voice message. Love to hear from you, or just go to social media. You can leave us your comments there. Go to castropolis.net. Also, because Vi, you got a copy of, and I want to get to the Tua thing before we wrap up and the question about the Falcons and the Bulldogs. But just in time for Halloween, Vi, I sent you a copy of this, and you made a comment that you were going to read it. But I mentioned this last week that I was releasing a novella, and Part 1, story 1 is out right now. It's called The Nightmare Journal, and it's dropped. It's in the Kindle Vella format. You don't need the Kindle app. I think you just need if you got an Amazon subscription or whatever, you can read it. But it is at castropolis.net. The link is there, or if you don't have the link, shoot me a note. Shoot us at the G Podcast, and we'll send it to you. But it's free. First 3 episodes, definitely, and they're individual stories. So if you're looking for something for Halloween, trying to get into the spirit, these are 3 because I write horror or thrillers or suspense stuff, and these are tales of horror and suspense available to you. So go to castropolis.net. And you'll see the banner. And again, if you don't see it, let me know and I'll take care of you. Okay. And again, there'll be 3 stories total. I'd love your feedback. Definitely give me some feedback and let me know. Okay. All right, Vi, before we wrap the show, man, I need to ask you about Tua in Miami. And if everybody saw it, everybody's talking about it. Even if you're not a sports fan, you saw the week before when Tua took the hit and got up and struggled, almost fell down, and his one of his players had to hold him up. They took him into the locker room halftime, I guess. He came out and they said it was a back injury. Okay, back injury,
and it was done by an independent doctor, according to, I guess, sources. Then we saw on Thursday Night Football what was tragic. I mean, this guy was basically slung to the ground, on his back, almost making hand signals to the point where he was knocked out.
Paralyzed. He ain't couldn't move.
So what are your thoughts, man? Do you think the team was wrong for continuing to plan?
Definitely.
Give me your thoughts.
Wrong.
You thought team who was wrong in this situation? Tua, the team, or
everybody was wrong. Tua did what all NFL players do. They want to play.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're gonna do what they can to play. Plus, Tua trying to make that money. He's known to be injury prone, and he's trying to make that money because this is a contract year for him.
Yeah.
So Tua gonna do what Tua gonna do what he think he need to do best. That's why the things are in place to protect the player from himself. That doctor need to get fired for approving him to play, and the team should be fine.
Okay.
Because they was wrong. He could have got killed or whatever.
So true.
So that I understand they did. The doctor was fired this weekend. But the team need to be fine too. The team should not get away there. And his coach talking about he would not play anybody. Dude, stop saying that. We don't believe that because we saw Tua have a concussion last weekend, and 4 days later, y'all playing him? No. So we're not believing it. So no, they were wrong. There was nothing right about that. Nothing.
Okay. Gotcha.
Tua lied. Everybody know Tua lied.
All right, moving on, man. Falcons won again this week, and we're in the Atlanta area. Hey, if your team won this week or your team lost, I hate to see Pittsburgh go 1-3. I don't want to see Tomlin have a losing season, but it might.
He'll come back.
I mean, I hope he comes back because he's one of the few coaches left that has not had a losing season. But what's the future for the Falcons this season? What do you see?
The Falcons has already surprised everybody by the way they look and the way they playing.
Okay.
Falcons going to do. They've already won them in the game. They said they projected them to win. So anything they win now is great as far as the Falcons concerned. Like the guy said, if we win more than 3 games, we surpassed what everybody thought we was going to do.
If they win 4, I'm ecstatic. But but I'm going to say this because he's a listener of the podcast and he's a big fan of the podcast and a supporter. Hitman Howie, our buddy Howie, has already said that he's looking at 8 wins this season.
Well, Howie needs to start eating them gummies.
No, you didn't. Stop eating the gummies.
Take the gummies out.
Take the gummies out your diet. Okay.
But I'm a big fan of the Falcons fan.
Yeah.
But I don't see the purpose in winning all these games this year. We're not going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We're not going to the playoffs. So why win all these games? Play good, lose, and get a good draft pick.
Can I tell you why?
Why?
It's about butts and seats. They still got to pay bills. They still got to get people to come to the game.
We coming to the Falcon game, win, lose, or draw.
That's not everybody. That's not everybody.
We're not, but most of the folks, like the guy said on TikTok, said, look, man, y'all can't out here humiliate about the Falcons.
Yeah.
We were rooting the Falcons when they gave away free tickets to get bread. So, we love our Falcons.
But I'm going to say this, man. I'm cool with the Bryce Young sweepstakes. You know what I'm saying? Did Bryce Young get hurt, by the way, this week, real quick?
He did. Is
he going to be all right?
They don't know yet. They say he might have an ACL sprain or something like that.
Oh, no.
It's his throwing show.
Uh-oh. The Bryce Young sweepstakes might have ended. So I'm gonna leave it at that. One last thing. Go ahead.
They don't think it's a serious injury. But I need also we say we don't get the Falcons, but I think we need. Did y'all know Georgia Tech won also this weekend?
Oh Lord, that's a miracle. I need to wait a minute.
They beat a ranked team. Pittsburgh was ranked when they beat them.
Wow. And they just fired the coach. So apparently they made the right decision by getting rid of the coach.
They need to get rid of him.
Last thing, man, Bulldogs. We were watching the game because you and I and Howie, man, we on the text. And we're checking out the game. And these guys struggled.
They did.
Against an unranked Missouri. Thoughts on, you still think they're going to be national champions this year?
All I can say, don't worry about the Bulldogs until they lose.
Okay. All right.
Because the Bulldogs, people fail to realize that's a young team.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing that people don't realize. The team last year was full of seniors.
Young team.
Full of seniors.
A lot of our top receivers did not play yesterday.
Yeah.
And we lost our best defensive lineman.
Mm-hmm. So who do you think is going to be number one?
Alabama.
Alabama's going to be number one again. Okay.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. They beat the crap out of their team. And Georgia's not going to fumble on number 2 because everybody know Ohio State, Michigan, they're never going to make them rank over the SEC team because we beat them. Every time we didn't play, we beat them so bad. So, no, we're not going to give them that.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Appreciate you, man. Sports. Cool. And we got to get Coach Art back here, too. You and Coach Art on at the same time. I don't know if I can handle that. But thanks.
He brings hope to the Falcons. Bring him on.
He does. He loves him some Falcons, man. I'm glad they won for Coach Art and the fan base. Definitely.
That's right.
I got to say thanks also to former colleague, longtime friend, Drew Dawson. He invited me to his class, communications department within Pamplin College on the campus of Augusta University. We talked podcasting, had a blast. The students had to listen to last week's episode before they talked to me. So, they had a bunch of questions. Great questions from the students. Thank you so much.
Wow.
And again, y'all, don't forget, get the novella. It's free. And again, here's how I'm doing the novella release. You get the first story now. Second story comes up October 16th. Third story is October 30th, and I may have a bonus if I can get it done. But the link is on at castropolis.net, and it'll also be in the notes. So again, you could check it out. It's my first publication, the Nightmare Journal, and the first story is next. And you'll see me as Tommy B, and you'll see the story currently. And again, another story is coming up on October 16th. It's a short story, y'all. So it's a short read. Have you read it, Vaughn?
That's it. But I downloaded it last night.
Oh, okay. Definitely check it out.
I did download it.
Yeah. I want to send me your thoughts this week. Okay.
No doubt, brother. All right. I support my brother.
So Vi and Tonya B got their advances. So I'll hear from them. If not during the week, this week, next week on the podcast. The merch store is open, y'all, in time for the holidays. Definitely get your whatever you're going to get. Go to the merch store. It's available. Thank you, Officer Ronnie Wyatt. Shout out to you. Thank you again, man, so much. And keep us posted on what's going on with the $1 Million Record Pool and J.R. Dino. Thank you, guys. I hope the information was helpful to you. And I don't always agree with law enforcement. We've been very critical, but one of the things we do agree with, it's a necessary evil. I mean, you got to have.
It's a necessary evil.
I mean, you got to have the police. I mean, I do believe in the mental health component when it comes down to having an option to call people who are definitely having a mental crisis. But, again, thank you, Officer Ronnie Wyatt, for coming in. And with that, y'all, you ready for the benediction, man?
I'm ready, my brother. I'm definitely ready.
Okay. Hey, let me get you ready. Let me get your stuff here. All right, you ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
Go ahead, Von.
Delaying to do good is inconsiderate and unfair. Whether it is repaying a loan, returning a tool, or fulfilling a promise. Withholding destroys trust and creates a great inconvenience. Be as eager to do good as you are to have good done to you. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 27 through 28. Whenever you possibly can do good to those who need it, never tell your neighbor to wait until tomorrow. If you can help them now. Amen. Amen. In other words, people, it's just like we know how we are. If you borrow $20 off somebody and you tell them you're going to pay them at Friday, don't make them come ask you for their money. If you go to your neighbor's house and borrow his too, don't keep it for money out like it's yours. So people, treat people as you want to be treated, because God treats you the way you want to be treated. So in other words, be good. Take care of each other. Amen. Amen.
Feeling a little convicted. It's all right, bye. Ooh, boy. Man. Thank you so much, Vi. Appreciate you, man.
Always, my brother. Always.
Slightly convicted, Tommy B. Talk to you off the air. Thank you so much, brother, man. Appreciate you, man. You are a huge supporter of the podcast, man.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, man. Hey, with that, y'all, definitely go to castropolis.net. All Things G podcast are there. We appreciate y'all's support. Don't forget, check out the novella. It's at castropolis.net. Get to the merch store. It's all there.
Check it out, people. Read it.
Definitely. And
hey, remember,
don't
Falcons, rise up.
And with that, y'all, now last week I jumped the gun. I should have said episode 47, but I just left it there. So episode 48 this week. is in the can, y'all, and we are out of here. Peace and power to the people, y'all. Take care.
Amen.
You've been listening to the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B. The G Podcast is a production of the Castropolis Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.